It is your favorite nerdy girl here, Nerdy Girl Reviews, and we are back with another review for you. Season 3 on Netflix. Please stay tuned for the commentary. And if you'd like to see the full clip, follow me here on YouTube. If you're seeing this on Instagram, click that link in bio. And also, if you'd like to see my other reviews, you can find me on sofritoforyoursoul.com. Stay tuned, y'all. So let me just start with saying this season is crazy and I enjoyed it. We all become accustomed to just the fact that you is this generation's Dexter, and not that Dexter was that long ago. But yes, it's given a new spin to the anti-hero hero. With our favorite character, Joe. I almost called him John. Shame on me. Joe Goldberg. I want to say that we already had left on some kind of semi cliffhanger on season 2, and season 2 was great too. I mean, we had the introduction of the Quins, the Quinn twins, and 40, which Love's character, Love Quinn, has to kind of combat having to deal with the fact that she had to, spoiler alert, she had to kill her own brother so that she could have a life with Joe. That's how devoted and in love that we left off season 2, and that she would put it all on the line, even to the point of killing, so that she can have her relationship with Joe. So they go and have a quickie wedding. She is pregnant. And then that's our launching pad into season 3. 40 passes. And because they want to start fresh and new, they're slowly becoming a very small family. They wanted to escape what was LA and move to the suburbs. They moved to Madre Linda, which is Spanish for beautiful mother. Section. It's a fictional section. I don't believe it exists in California, but it's supposed to be this suburban, very enclosed, family-friendly enclave of this particular part of California. And we see our coupling mature and going into parenthood as Love gives birth. And for some odd reason, Joe wanted a girl, because Joe was convinced that she was pregnant with a girl, and that this would maybe be the female that he's been striving to save, because he's always put on this like hero vibe with all of his obsessions. And so what better person to protect than his future daughter? But oops, it's a boy, and it's Henry. It's such a cute little boy. And you could see, I want to say that the writers were smart in playing into most people's fears. That's why a lot of people don't necessarily pull the trigger, so to speak, in becoming parents, because it's a big responsibility. And sometimes it's not as easy as sometimes how they make it seem. It can be an adjustment for most adults. And Joe, maybe being accustomed to always playing superhero, he knows how to court or just attain the attention of a female. But a male, I think he becomes actually even more nervous, in the sense that he just doesn't want his son to inherit his ways, Love is going through the transition too, because she went from this free-spirited cook, drops anything on a dime, makes love in the middle of the kitchen whenever she feels like it, to being mommy, responsible, suburban home, suburban lifestyle. And she didn't want to just to be, living in the suburbs, living on, resting on her laurels. And so she decides, I mean, she is wealthy enough to attain a business. And so she's like, why don't I just go back to cooking? So she is a trained pastry chef, and she opens up a bakery, small little bakery, cafeteria, cafe, called Fresh Tart, which was cute because it was a nice little spin on Fresh Start. So they Fresh Start. Anyway, so she has like all these exquisite and delicious confectionery, you know, pastries available. And, at first it's not such a draw because where they're living also happens to be the biggest social media spot where everybody's very like health conscious and only eat vegan and sugar free and GMO free and all this stuff. Nobody wants to deal with any gluten. And so she was like, did I do the right thing? But the way she attains this business, I kind of jumped over that. So Joe doesn't lose his old ways in the sense that he still obsesses. And so his object of affection for the beginning of season 3 is Natalie, the next door neighbor, why I'm dressed this way, kind of like she loves like these, big fall like hats, autumn hats and colors and whatnot. She's very attractive, very beautiful, model-esque, blonde, green eyes, and she's a real estate broker, so win-win. So while Love is going through her depression, her postpartum depression, and being a little on the obsessive side, thinking that she's losing her looks and that Joe's not interested in her, there's a moment where she just needs a break, and Joe invites himself over to the neighbors, realizes that she is cut. At first, I think it's all in his head that they're flirting, but in reality, no, the woman was genuinely interested. She wanted a little Joe, a little cup of Joe. But he stops himself because he's like, no, I'm turning a new leaf. I don't want that. But his old ways is what always gets him. So he starts, like he's done with all his other post obsession object of affections. He starts collecting their personal items and keeping a little care package, in dedication to them. He's done this in season 1, and so he stole some undies and from her bedroom. They have a really passionate kiss, but he walks away, and she had hurt herself, so he also had a scarf where she had tried to stop the blood and whatnot. So then they all go to this neighborhood party where they're all kind of introducing themselves as neighbors, and then we see that Love is very astute. This is the thing, when you date and especially marry a mirror image of yourself, it's hard to keep things quiet, or for that person to not know your every move, because she is able to detect real quickly Joe's tendencies and how she had been Joe's object of affection. Now she knew quickly that Natalie was now her replacement, and she was not having it. So now we've seen how Love has killed in the past in season 2, but we didn't really see like how unhinged she has been. Mind you, she is dealing still with the loss of her other half, which was her twin brother 40, which also why they also named Henry as his middle name 40, so go figure. But now that she doesn't have her brother to kind of like run to and vent to, she's taking out all these emotions and frustrations literally out on her victims. So she kills Natalie. Natalie doesn't even stand a chance this season. She's just out in the first episode. And then we slowly start to realize that Joe's not liking this stuff. He did not like marrying himself. And she's a lot more astute than him. She's a lot more detail oriented. She picks up on small details that maybe Joe may not see all the time. Although they're both very keen, sharp killers, sorry to say, but they are. She has like no empathy. She just like, she shoots from the hip. She's very emotional, and so it's like fits of rages of why she loses it, and you know, ultimately kills. So we see the development of the season, and I gotta say the breakout stars here were the co-stars, because we have, hold on, we have Sherry and Carrie. Sherry is a well-known Madre Linda mom influencer with a huge social media following. Her husband is like this super buff guy, you know, super health nut. Um, who ideally honestly like look like they're all full of crap, but and at first that's the impression you get. And not for nothing, did not, is it just me, but did Sherry kind of give you Robin Gibbons vibes from like Head of the Class, or what was her name, or like Hillary Banks from Fresh Prince of Bel Air? Very much that, you know, that top tier of education. And no shade, I enjoyed that. I love that she was a woman of color and that she was stealing the show. Just, I was not expecting for those two characters to stand out the way they, at first, ideally, Sherry does not look like a very nice person, likable person, but towards the end, towards like episode 8 and on, they were like the funniest characters. And we're talking about like some heavy scenes when it involves polyamorous situations, and then unfortunately they came so close to actually being victims. Like they were gonna you know, they were quick to be off, especially how Love's character was running this season. And I want to say that Victoria Pedretti, I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but she's the one that plays Love Quinn. What a talented young actress this girl is. I've seen her in a number of other shows on Netflix. I think it's The Haunting of Blythe Manor or something like that. The girl's very versatile, and the way she reads on camera, like you can see that rage like just coming straight through her eyes, or those sensitivity moments when she's sharing a vulnerability either with Joe or even Joe's love interest, which we'll get into in a minute. She just like, she's phenomenal to watch, and I'm excited to see more projects that she's in. But the way she kills too is in those fits of rages. I want to say for this season too that they were not holding back when it came to their position in terms of what we're going through COVID and vaccines. And although they skirted around COVID, there was instances, but I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying that, like American Horror Story and you have emphasized what we're going through art, but they've managed to weave it into the story to make it relevant and to basically teach, because I've always said art is a great tool, so it's a great opportunity to educate. So we see these instances of how vaccines work, how vaccines are very important, how they save lives. We also see how women are treated, and especially what we've been going through in terms of pushing for this non-abortion ban, and not really allowing space for women to have basically rights to their reproduction, period. So that we're being stripped of our rights. They definitely were heavy-handed when it came to that. Not to the point where it was preachy, but it was definitely pushed out there so that people could make their own decisions. But nonetheless, I appreciated that, especially during a time that is so unpredictable, especially on set. So I give them much kudos and much praise for putting that out there, for our learning purposes and for entertainment. So, but I want to say that towards the end, we see that Joe has a new love interest since Natalie was off, and we have the introduction of Marianne, played by Tati Gabrielle, another woman of color, very beautiful woman, and she plays Parisian. She was born in Paris but raised in the United States, had a checkered past, have been in foster care, much like Joe, and that's why we see this kindling between them both. They have a love for books. She's a librarian. She has a master's degree, but her checkered past comes with a naughty and complex ex-husband, and because she just didn't want to be married to him, utilizes their child that they have in common to basically crucify her and never allow her to move on with her life. Unfortunately, that is how the world is sometimes, sadly. So we have that. So here we have Joe, and of course Joe loves these patterns of finding women that need rescuing, and so he feels like the superhero here. But love catches wind of that, and then that's when all hell breaks loose. So even though Joe is the saving grace for Marianne and is able to alleviate that situation, I won't spoil it for you, and he thinks he can finally have a moment to be with her, or actually even just separate himself, because honestly, living with love, the body count has nearly doubled. And he was like, look, I already have to deal with what I already put myself through. Now I gotta clean up your mess as well. So he wants out, and Love's not having it, to the point where, because of her meddling mother, he finds out that Love had killed her previous husband, because she had been married previously to meeting Joe. And she blamed it on the cancer, but no, she had poisoned him. She was growing in the garden a poisonous plant called wolfsbane, and when you dilute it basically, and injected, can paralyze you to the point of stopping the heart. So what she wasn't anticipating is that he was already suspicious. I mean, again, them being so identical, near teardrop identical to each other, they didn't even trust each other. And even in their famous cage, one left a key in there just in case they ended up in there. They did not trust each other. So he had the antidote, because in inviting this polyamorous comedic couple over, which then they kept captive in that famous cage, he had like this arsenal of medicine, and one of them was adrenaline, and that's the antidote. You have to take 45 minutes before you ingest anything that could paralyze you, and he was paralyzed for a good portion after cleaning up all her mess and dealing with the other nonsense as well. So she almost nearly